Hello and welcome to episode 27 of Stucky's Travels. Today we're going to bring you to Kenya.
All right, so you're going to need your hepatitis A, hepatitis B, typhoid, all your normal booster shots, probably malaria. You can take that in pill form, and yellow fever. You're going to need your passport for Kenya, and some of the souvenirs you can buy. If you go during our summer, it's likely the start of their winter. So here's my Kenya stocking cap. Kazuri beads, which we'll show you later. A lot of really cool ceramic pieces. They're known for their necklace beads. So this is actually a bead, believe it or not. It's a little cheetah. From City Market, we got this cool necklace. It's made out of rolled up paper, actually, believe it or not. And as always, lots of cool hand painted magnets. So those are some of the things you can buy.
So here's where Kenya is, and
Is considered East Africa. So our adventures took us to Kenya, Tanzania, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Malawi, and South Africa, and all of that is considered East Africa.
as you can see, Kenya is right on the equator. I think we never actually got close to the equator. We started a little bit south and never went up north to the equator.
But that would be a cool spot to visit if you have plenty of time and you're just going to Kenya. We were going to be covering a lot of ground, so we only went from Nairobi south. So you can see this is the country of Kenya. A lot of people also travel to Mombasa, which is on the ocean, as a nice beach place. But we stayed Nairobi and then dropped straight south to Arusha, Tanzania.
Yep, a lot of people also go over to Lake Victoria, very large and deep lake, but we did not make it over there.
So the currency is called the Kenyan shilling. Right now, it's 106 shillings for every U.S. dollar. When we were there, it's been a while back now, 2012. It was 82 shillings per dollar. The currency has the same leader on the front side, but the back side is different. I'm holding this 200 shilling up to the light, and you can see over to the left hand side how the lion shows up with its glowing eyes as the security feature of this of currency. The Kenyan flag's in the bottom left corner.
And with the exchange rate, when you exchange US money at a bank, it's probably actually going to be pretty close to 100 shillings per dollar, which makes it really easy. Each shilling is basically like a US penny.
One of the first stops that we made when we were in Nairobi is the National Museum. We didn't do a very good job of choosing a hotel. The picture on the internet looked fine. Of course, they're going to put their best foot forward. You should really read the reviews of the hotel pretty carefully. So we had to have a driver pick us up each day from our hotel because it was deemed unsafe by the workers of the hotel for us to go outside without having a driver. So our driver picked us up and took us to the Nairobi National Museum. He actually went in with us. The rate for Americans or foreign tourists is different than for locals. So around $10 will get you into this National Museum, which is renowned especially for its skeletons.
Yep, so lots of really neat evolutionary history with human skulls from before Homo sapiens. Lots and lots of these skulls have been found in Kenya and the surrounding countries. So Homo erectus, Homo ergaster, many, many others, along with obviously the Africanus species. So
Yeah, so I think Nairobi is known for having one of the world's largest collections of those things that Miles named. Next, we had the driver take us to KCC, which is the convention center in Nairobi, and it's over on the left. It's a helipad on the top, and so then that's a picture of us on the helipad looking down over the city.
So on the right, this was the lunch that I had, and the meat there is goat. Goat is actually very tasty, but a little bit stringy, along with a little bit of salad. And I think this was rice, but ugali looks fairly similar, and it is a very
It's very dense and filling. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's made. It looks a lot like mashed potatoes, but it's actually made out of corn, and so it's a staple product for them, a staple food. On the left hand side, this is actually on one of their bills of their currency. It's outside of the Parliament building. So the next day, actually, we traveled with a driver that we had for the entire day to the first stop was Kazuri Beads, and they sell these beads worldwide. I showed you a little giraffe at the beginning. You can see the giraffes in the bottom right before they've been glazed and fired, just when they're made out of clay. They employ mostly single mothers who have some sort of hardship, and it's just a really good way of supporting local and giving jobs to people who need them.
Yeah, I think they employ over 300 females.
Pretty impressive place. Definitely recommend visiting.
And next we got to go to the giraffe, really giraffe center. You can see on the bottom middle, there's a hotel. You want to talk about the hotel?
Yeah, the hotel is called Giraffe Manor. It is extremely expensive, so it would have to be like something on your bucket list, but it would be pretty cool, I suppose, to wake up and have a giraffe sticking its head in your window. It is 15 US dollars to visit the Giraffe Center now. You do get the opportunity to feed a giraffe out of your hand. You can even hold the food between your teeth if you want and have the giraffe eat right out of your mouth if you choose to do that. So all ages of giraffes at this giraffe center, and they have a lot of space that they can roam.
A warning, if you choose to have meat eat out of your mouth, their tongues are very long and their tongues will end up all over your face.
Next, we went to the David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust. It is basically an orphanage predominantly for elephants. They did have a rhinoceros there that had likely its mother had been poached. A lot of these really, really young elephants, which you can see how small they are here at the Wildlife Trust because their mothers were killed. Maybe the mother had been trampling huts in a village, or maybe the mother was poached by poachers, or whatever the case might be. These keepers all wear these green jackets, and they really become family with the elephants. They stay with them 24/7. So they even sleep in the same stall, basically, with just hay on the ground, and they each get assigned to an elephant, and they work shifts, and so the elephant always has someone with them.
Yep. But the elephants aren't here for their life. They're only here for the first few years. I think maybe up to 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, when they're ready to be reintroduced, they are.
Yep.
So you can see them drinking milk. You can see there's a lot of people. They only allow it to be open for 1 hour a day for general public. I believe if you foster one of the elephants, you might get another opportunity of a different hour per day, but only open to the public 1 hour a day. So 23 of the hours a day they're just with the keeper, and so it helps keep them more wild instead of thinking that people are who they are supposed to be around. Next, we went to the Bomas of Kenya. This was a really neat place to see. It was sort of like a reenactment's not the right word, but like it was like a village that showed different types of villages. So you can see these two different huts in the pictures, and these would be different tribes that live in Kenya. So without having to travel over the whole country, you got a glimpse into what different tribes lived like, what they dressed like you can see with the person that I'm in the picture with. There were loads of school kids here on a field trip. I think this is a pretty regular thing for them to go there on a field trip to check this out. It's about 10 US dollars for us to go and see this, but it's really worth it.
Yep. And if you look closely in the picture with Michelle, that's the second wife's hut. And so a lot of times in these tribes, the males may have more than one wife. So Michelle was almost his third wife.
One of the cool things we got to do there was we got to watch cultural dances, hear cultural singing, drum playing, instruments, things like that. It was really neat to see how the tribes actually do things there. There's our friend again.
And then we traveled the next day, right?
Still the same day. I don't know. No, the next day.
Yep.
Next day.
To Hell's Gate National Park, which was maybe an hour and a half away from Kenya,
Nairobi.
Nairobi, excuse me, in Kenya. And when we got there, we thought we'd be driving through, and apparently we had to pay extra for our driver. So instead, we just walked. You can rent bikes, but we went in and we walked and didn't know until we got out that there were lions in there.
It's a really big national park, though, and so it was going to be unlikely that we were going to come across the lions. But really cool experience to be able to walk through most of the national parks. That's not even an option because of the number of lion prides. It's not typical for lions to be in this park, so that's why they offer it as an option. Unfortunately, we didn't get to some of the neat features because the worker told us it was 8 kilometers and she meant 8 kilometers one way instead of 8 kilometers round trip, so we didn't allow ourselves enough time for what time our driver was supposed to be coming back to get us. But as you can see in the pictures, in the middle we have a warthog family. In the upper left, a warthog. Then we have a baboon, kind of a wild donkey, and then a giraffe. So very cool to be on foot seeing all of these different animals.
Yeah, and this was our first opportunity to really see nature in Africa, and it was all over the place.
There were also a lot of gazelles, so even though this picture in the upper left only has one, there were a lot of them. In fact, at one point in time, the helicopter carrying the prime minister flew over, and that startled the gazelle, and so a whole big herd of gazelle started running. It was quite neat.
And so this on the left here, this is a weaver. This was at Lake Navashu.
So we decided we were going to go on a boat tour to be able to see the hippopotamuses. Um, it was about $40 for Miles and I both to go out on our own private boat with a guide to take us to find the hippos. So definitely at the time I thought it was expensive, but looking back, definitely worth it.
So we got to get fairly close to the hippos. The boat drivers won't let us get too close because obviously you guys have probably heard the stories. Hippos are very dangerous when they're in the water, and if you get too close, they will attack.
Yeah, so we stayed back. We saw several different groups of hippos, though. You could kind of, if they weren't above the water, you could see the bubbles, and our guide was really good at finding where the next set was going to pop up. In the bottom of the screen is a fishing eagle, and so this picture is, we took it right after it snatched a fish out of the water, so you can kind of see it splash, and it's carrying the fish in its talons.
I think I took that picture.
Lots of birds. So even though hippos were the star attraction of Lake Navasha, the lots of different types of birds were really cool too. Cormorants, cranes, pelicans.
And the African fishing eagle again. So they mate and pair for life. So we got to see a few different pair.
Another thing that we got to see along the way was the Great Rift Valley. It was really beautiful to sort of look across and see that it stretches really far, like the map shows on the left-hand side.
Yeah, and so really what it is the African plate is splitting in half. And so what it's created is this huge valley all the way from actually Lebanon, rather than Israel, all the way down to Mozambique.
Yeah, and if you look at a real map along that route, there's a lot of lakes, and those lakes are getting wider because the rift is spreading.
Yep, and there's some of the deepest lakes in the world.
So the next couple of pictures are just shops. As we're driving down the road, this is what the stores look like in and outside of Nairobi, Kenya.
Yep, and I imagine besides the lights that might be on and other things, this is probably very much like what the U.S. was a long time ago in the 1800s.
So the Maasai people are the tribal people of this area, and it was pretty common as we were driving across the countryside to see groups tending to their cattle.
And then on the left, you can see a really large
termite mound.
Yep. And then on the right, the bus we were in for a month.
Yeah, so it's called an overland truck, and the rest of our adventure, you're going to be seeing us from our overland truck.
Yep. So we'll see you next time.
Thank you.